Now, I'm going to do this cat. This is a case where you really need a good piece of reference. I just want to position the size of the head roughly here. Get a couple of marks on the width. That's the shot that I'm going to work from. I'm going to divide this in half because that's roughly where the eyes are going to be, about midway point. I want a little straighter. I like the angle he's on, and give myself a bit of a guideline for the center. Feeling that the chin is too low. Now that's about right there. And now I can kind of sort of block in the eyes. I'm thinking about one eye width apart. Make sure the bottom line up for size. There is a slight angle on those eyes. So I look at where the ears center over top of the eyes. Give myself a bit of a guide for proportion and positioning. It's a slight angle down, so the ears are sitting a little lower than the top of the head as I see it. Get rid of some of these messy lines and start shaping the bit of this little peak. I want to refine them as much as possible before the paint goes on, and just make sure I understand how the fur kind of fits in around the eyes. And make sure the shape of that white fur in the center of the forehead is accurate as well. And I'm going to protect the eyes with a little bit of masking fluid. It's just one of many brands. I use Winsor Newton in this case. And just pour a little bit out. A very small brush. This will protect the eyes from paint when I wet the paper. It's just that the eyes just tell such a strong story about these animals that it's good to preserve them and render them up just a little bit more than the rest of the features. And I wet that brush before I put it in the masking fluid, and I'll rinse it out right away. Otherwise it clogs up. Now it's totally dry, masking fluid is, and I want to work the whole thing on wet paper. I'm going to mix up a bit of burnt sienna with a touch of ultramarine in it, just to get a kind of a brown but not pure reddish brown like burnt sienna is. And I'll switch my brush load, mix a little darker, a little more blue, a little more brown, just a little more paint each time I go in. It's safe to paint right over the eyes now that I've got masking fluid. And I want to just let it bleed because it will retain this kind of furry, fuzzy feel to it right over that eye. It's a little too blue in that mixture, but I'm going to let the brown run into it. I'm just trying to avoid getting it into that white fur on the forehead. It will run, so I can always lift it out later. But if the paint just goes down now, it's just a little less water, a little drier in other words, it it will sort of hold up a bit of an edge. Now a lighter blue, or just more, this is the blue-gray shadow on the white fur down the side. Let's let it run into the background. You can see the paper's still very wet. This is 200 pound. It's T.H. Saunders paper. Now, very dry mixture, quite a dark blend. Same two colors, ultramarine and burnt sienna, just on a small liner brush, a small pointed round. And I get soft edges on these marks, but it holds some shape. I want it to kind of fade as it gets near the edges. Yeah, a bit on this leg here. Hope it looks like a leg. Now it's dry, and I need to go in with dry brush and just start to refine the markings. Same two colors. And just start to render, blending them into the wet washes. It's a bit tricky because it tends to look a bit harsh if you don't get a nice soft blend. Now it's dry, everything is dry, and I'm going to just remove the masking from the eyes. Very gently so I don't tear the paper. Now, of course, I've lost some of the detail that I want to just re-establish with my pencil before I paint, to make sure they're kind of balanced. This is a mixture of orange, cadmium orange with a little bit of burnt sienna. Don't want it to get too dark. Just add a little bit of water, lift it. I want kind of a goldy color. Same thing here. Cutting around to leave a little highlight. Yeah. I've added a bit more and it's gone just a bit darker. I'm going to touch the bottom and see if it'll lighten it up just a little bit. Well, that's dry. Just only takes a couple of minutes. I can put the darks in. Careful not to fill in that highlight. Start to do a little retouching on the fur too. If you have good reference, you can refer to it frequently just to get the details in the most important part of the picture. Now I'm going to put the whiskers on with a little bit of white paint and a very thin liner brush, or a small pointed brush. Need a little water. That's called Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. It can be any water-based white. I wouldn't use acrylic because it won't come off. If you make a mistake, this will at least lift out. You need the right consistency so it flows off the brush. Sometimes it's too thick and it just won't flow off. Other times it's too thin and it comes off in a puddle. So test it before you put it on your work. And there may be a few little spots where you can sneak in a few light hairs just to add a bit of dimension to the fur. I wouldn't overdo it. It's so tempting. If it starts looking good, it's going to be real tempting to keep going. And I just want to make sure that a couple of these, because it's thin paint, it's starting to fade a little bit. I just want to pick up a little bit more white on a couple of those whiskers and see if I can get one or two on this side to show up against that light background. Now, I just want to demonstrate one little thing here. You can put down it. Sometimes the white paint looks a bit too white. You can lift it off, but then there's a chance that you're going to smudge what's around it. When it's dry, you can take a little bit of a light, say like brown in this case, and just touch it, and it just sinks back down. And there's your finished product.